Joining me now is Doug Heye, former communications director for the RNC, and Bakari Sellers, former South Carolina state representative. Good morning, one and all. Thank you for being here. Okay, so Doug, you say Democrats are wrong to call Bevin's loss a referendum on the president. Obviously, you're pointing to the fact that statewide in Kentucky, the Republicans won 5 of the 6 races with a nice majority there. But does it tell us anything about Trump, Bevin's rhetoric, any of that?
No, I think it might have, Trump's late-minute visit might have actually pulled it a little bit closer, not drastically so, but a little bit. You know, you called him embattled and unpopular. I'd add to that, didn't run a great campaign, didn't raise a lot of money, was on everybody's radar screen for a long time. I don't think this has a whole lot to do with Donald Trump. This is about Matt Bevin not being a governor that Kentucky wanted to reelect. And again, as you mentioned, if you look at the other statewide races, Republicans did very well, including electing the first Republican attorney general since the 1940s, the first African-American attorney general of the state as well.
I do want to talk about that because that is significant. So, Bakari, let me toss that to you. Daniel Cameron winning as Attorney General by 16 points. Again, as Doug just laid out, he's making history, the first African-American Attorney General. He is so young. Let me read you something from the Louisville Courier-Journal political reporter Philip Bailey, who writes, Mitch McConnell did what no Kentucky Dem was able to do, and that is get a non-white Kentuckian elected to statewide office, a serious feather in the cap for Team Mitch. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know about all of that. I am very proud of the new Attorney General of the state of Kentucky. As someone who ran statewide in the South, came up short, I can tell you that is an awesome accomplishment. He joins the ranks of people like Tim Scott, who are black Republicans who have achieved that level of success. So my hat's off to him. But I have to take some umbrage to the Republican Party all of a sudden championing their diversity. Having one African-American elected statewide on that level in Kentucky and winning last night is not indicative of any vast change in the Republican Party or their policies, which we know are policies that do not do well for black and brown communities throughout this country. I do want to also push back on Doug's sentiment that this isn't an indictment on Donald Trump, because the fact is you had an unpopular governor who just raided the healthcare system in Kentucky, who shredded the public education system in Kentucky, and that sounds just like what Donald Trump is doing to the United States of America. And so I think there are a great deal of similarities, and I think Democrats have to keep their foot on the gas. It was a good night for Democrats all in all.
I want you both to weigh in on what the suburbs tell us. I mean, Doug, obviously you worked suburban Richmond, Virginia for Eric Cantor. You know a lot about this, and I just wonder how much you think, if you think, Republicans should be pretty worried about the suburbs and what we saw play out yesterday in both Kentucky and Virginia.
Yeah, I'd also add Pennsylvania to that, where we saw some results that also should be troubling in suburban areas for Republicans. You know, Bakari wrote a piece for CNN that I'd recommend to people about how Democrats shouldn't have litmus tests. Republicans for a long time have had litmus tests. This predates Donald Trump. It's part of what I dealt with when I worked for Eric Cantor in the House of Representatives. And I think Republicans need to ask themselves, do you want to nominate Eric Cantor or do you want to nominate Dave Brat? Because ultimately, one may be successful in a general and one may not be. And this is why we're seeing Republicans doing very poorly in the suburban areas of Richmond, in suburban Washington, D.C., in Northern Virginia, in those districts outside of Philadelphia, where we've seen Republicans retire. It's why we've seen Republicans retire in suburban areas in Texas. Republicans have a real existential problem in suburban communities, and that's due in some part to Donald Trump, obviously, and his unpopularity in those areas, but also in the direction that the party has gone pre-Trump, the candidates that they've nominated, and that's why they're in this real trouble. It's not one thing, it's actually more than one.
Bakari, listen to this from Donald Trump Jr. He was on Laura Ingram's show on Fox last night. Here's how he sees it.
I think he's done a good job, but Matt Bevin has picked some fights. So this has nothing to do with Trump. Again, they swept the rest of the ticket. They did great in Mississippi, et cetera, the other election today. The two really, I don't think, have that much to do with each other.
His point is you can't look at this race and make it all about the president, which is what we saw the president saying, you know, two nights before. Does he have any point at all when you look across the state of Kentucky? When you look at, of course, Mississippi, a deep red state, but it at least was close enough there for a lot of national reporters to head there to see what might happen.
No, he's not making any valid points. Donald Trump Jr. very rarely makes any valid points. Anytime your argument as a Republican is, look at how well we did in Mississippi, you're usually not winning that argument. The fact is, even Attorney General Hood in Mississippi got within 5 points of winning the governor's race there. So no, you can't look to Mississippi for some semblance of success. But I will say this. Democrats have to, as Doug was saying, we can't fall prey to these purity tests. And that's what I wrote about on CNN.com. We cannot fall prey to these purity tests, because while we had a very unpopular governor, while we have a very unpopular president in Donald Trump, and yes, it was a rebuke against him, we had amazing candidates last night run on issues that mattered to their electorate. Andy Beshear did not run through or stump through Kentucky waving a flag of "I can be further left than anyone else." He ran on issues that mattered to Kentuckians. And what may work in the Bronx or Brooklyn doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in Paducah or Louisville. And so I just think that as a party, we have to shy away from litmus tests and choose the best candidates under our big tent, matched with this unpopular president, and we can have some success.
Bakari Sellers, Doug High, thank you both. Interesting
you.
night for sure. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.